President Scheinbaum is hailing the Mexican army after the gallant soldiers stormed a CJNG's hideout near Guadalajara.
¡Pura malliza la verga, eh! ¡Pura malliza!
That operation ended in the capture of some of El Mencho's most trusted hitmen, with loads of drugs and weapons seized. But the onslaught didn't end there. Another dramatic mission led to the capture of another notorious CJNG assassin responsible for the recent murder of Bernardo Bravo, the leader of the Citrus Growers Association in the Apatzingan Valley. But while Scheinbaum was still celebrating the wins, the cartel struck back with a brutal car bomb detonated right in front of a local police station. So now, the question is, how far will these criminals go in this terror campaign of retaliation? And if the military responds with more violence, what could happen next?
Al final de cuentas, todos somos malos.
We are all bad guys. That's the reality. Why? Because at the end of the day, the work is the same. We kill like all the others.
So, according to federal officials, this operation was the result of prolonged military intelligence work that tracked movement patterns, communications, and the use of specific properties tied to a criminal cell linked to the Jalisco New Generation Cartel. Based on that intelligence, authorities identified a residence in the Las Cañadas subdivision of Zapopan, Jalisco, as an operational base used by the group. With the location confirmed, they began coordinated ground and aerial surveillance, which enabled them to gather enough evidence to secure a judicial search warrant. That's when members of the Mexican army, working alongside local police, stormed the property and smashed down the front door with a battering ram. By the end of the operation, they detained 3 individuals, all of whom were identified as members of a criminal structure operating under the CJNG. But the main target was Jose Gabriel, known as Uber. According to the Secretariat of Security and Citizen Protection, he was identified as the leader of a criminal cell operating in Zapopan and across the Guadalajara metropolitan area. These guys have been involved in everything from trafficking, extortion, kidnappings, murders, and arms trafficking. Along with Jose Gabriel, Mauricio Cruz, and Carlos Alberto were also arrested. Investigators believe both men played active roles within the same criminal cell, supporting its operations and logistics. During the search of the residence, authorities seized a rifle, 2 handguns, magazines, ammunition, and approximately 500 doses of methamphetamine. In addition to the weapons and drugs, they also seized 5 vehicles, multiple cell phones, and other communication equipment they had been using to coordinate crimes. That's why Scheinbaum is celebrating this operation as a significant blow against the CJNG. But this was just one part of a broader offensive against criminal structures linked to the CJNG. The target of this next operation was Cesar Sepulveda Arellano, better known as El Botox, a criminal leader who authorities say had been operating for years in Michoacan with direct ties to CJNG-aligned networks. El Botox was the leader of a group known as Los Blancos de Troya, a criminal cell involved in extortion, contract killings, and territorial control in agricultural regions. He had been wanted by Mexican authorities and even the United States for years, but the pressure to capture him intensified after the brutal murder of Bernardo Bravo, the leader of the Citrus Growers Association in the Apatzingan Valley.
Fear and uncertainty, lemon growers returned to work at the Apatzingan market 2 days after the murder of their leader, Bernardo Bravo. Surveillance was reinforced at the entrance and exit of the building due to the presence of deputies, officials, and the governor. There were operations by land and air.
Bravo had been outspoken about cartel extortion targeting lemon growers, and because of that, he became a direct target. So, on October 19th, Bravo was lured into what he believed was a meeting for peace talks with some unidentified cartel leaders, not realizing it was an ambush. But his mistake was ditching his security details and traveling alone to a location south of Apatzingan. Hours later, his body was found inside his truck with a gunshot wound. The investigation that followed retraced Bravo's movements, which led investigators straight to a ranch owned by El Botox, where they found tire tracks from Bravo's truck and his blood. From that point on, investigators launched a full-scale manhunt for El Botox, but by then, the criminal had already vanished. so investigators went after the people closest to him. The first to fall was Rigoberto Lopez Mendoza, known as El Pantano, who was captured just 1 day after the murder. Then, less than 24 hours later, they arrested El Botox's wife, simply known as Blanca N. By this point, El Botox knew investigators were closing in on him, but instead of still lying low, he did some that'd finally seal his fate. While on the run, El Botox began recording videos deep inside the forest and posting on social media. In the videos, he denied responsibility for Bravo's murder and accused Bravo's brother of having a hand in his death.
In the almost 5-minute recording, this man accuses Jaime Bravo, Limonero's brother, of collaborating with criminal groups. That's why he asked the authorities, and this is how things are, to investigate the Bravo family.
Not just the family, he accused the authorities of corruption and demanded the release of his wife and daughter, who had been arrested days earlier. He directly addressed President Sheinbaum and the Secretary of Security and Civilian Protection, saying, "I am not the person you are trying to make me out to be." But he didn't stop there. El Botox went so far as to call on the US authorities to intervene in Mexico. And that was the moment he crossed the line, because a US intervention in Mexico is something Sheinbaum doesn't want to hear. So the Security Cabinet mobilized joint forces from the Army, Navy, federal security agencies, and the Michoacan Attorney General's office to the Tierra Caliente region to hunt him down. But once the criminal caught wind of what was happening, he attempted to evade capture by moving between safe houses. But using intelligence gathered from close associates and intercepted communications, authorities narrowed in on a rural area where he was believed to be hiding. And behold, there he was.
They captured the criminal leader without a single shot being fired. And following his arrest, he was immediately transported by military helicopter to Mexico City and placed under the custody of federal authorities. Alongside him, authorities arrested several members of his inner circle, including a financial operator and 2 bodyguards.
They also seized weapons, ammunition, tactical equipment, and communication devices. Officials described the capture as a decisive blow against a CJNG-linked structure operating in Michoacan. Now, while this was yet another decisive blow against the CJNG, many people believe that the government only acted because El Botox was about to expose the deep government corruption through the videos he was making while on the run. Because think about this.
This was a guy who had multiple active arrest warrants at both the state and federal levels, including charges related to aggravated extortion, homicide, attempted murder, and the use of explosives. So now the question is, if El Botox and his criminal gang had been that notorious long before Bravo's murder, then why did it take such a high-profile killing to trigger a serious and sustained operation for his capture?
Anyways, as the government celebrated these arrests, the cartels were already preparing their response. On December 6th, a car bomb detonated outside a community police station in the municipality of Coahuayana, Michoacan.
In a brutal reminder of Mexico's ongoing cartel war, car bombs exploded outside 2 police stations in the Guanajuato.
The explosion outside the Public Security Ministry building injured 3 officers, 1 woman seriously and 2 men with minor wounds, while damaging the station, nearby houses, 7 vehicles, and surrounding structures.
Guanajuato, Mexico's most violent state by homicide rate, has been a battleground
between the Jalisco New Generation Cartel, CJNG,
and the Santa Rosa de Lima cartel over drug trafficking routes.
According to state and federal authorities, the blast killed 6 people, including community police officers, and left multiple others injured. Several nearby buildings and vehicles were also damaged. Investigators described the incident as an act of terrorism, and according to them, The explosive device had been hidden inside a pickup truck that entered Michoacán from the neighboring state of Colima. The vehicle was driven into position near the police station and detonated shortly after. One of the individuals killed was the driver of the vehicle, who authorities believe was working for El MANCHO. They came to that conclusion after intelligence assessments pointed to the CJNG as the group behind the attack. Now, this attack came just weeks after the same CJNG assassinated Uruapan Mayor Carlos Manzo. That murder, as some of you guys probably know, sparked massive protests over government corruption and organized crime.
Thousands of Mexicans took to the streets of their capital on Saturday, marching towards the residence of the country's president.
But while people were still reeling from these tragedies, Sheinbaum ignored them and went on to organize her so-called Tiger March to mobilize support for her government.
The president's call to action revealed the strength of the ruling party and the Morena party, bringing together more than 600,000 people who came from various parts of the country.
That rally became a talking point for the opposition party, which criticized the Sheinbaum administration and the Morena party for prioritizing public celebrations over any little win, while the cartels continue to kill innocent people on a daily basis. In a statement published on its official X handle, the party said, "While the regime boasts in the Zocalo that everything is fine, the reality in Mexico is different. A car bomb has just exploded in Coahuayana, confirming that the violence remains out of control, and we couldn't agree more, because at this point, the Sheinbaum administration seems far more focused on chasing online popularity than performing its primary responsibility to protect lives and property. Arresting a few cartel leaders or some low-level dealers means absolutely nothing if cartels still have the capacity to carry out retaliatory attacks of this scale." Please feel free to share your thoughts with us in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more in-depth videos like this. Meanwhile,